Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chronic Gamer and you're watching the third part of this PvP beginner's guide. This time we'll go about how to build your build. That includes weapon choice, the stats, your traits, and of course the utility abilities. This will not be a video about what traits etc. you're supposed to take with any specific class. I want to give you a general overview of what you're able to customize and certain things you have to look out for. If, however, you want a proper build to just jump into PvP, there are a couple of links in the description of this video. I will try and put 1 or 2 viable builds for every class in there. But I do urge you to at least invest a little bit of time going through what these builds are actually made up of, so that you're aware of what traits etc. you can take advantage of, and try to adjust your playstyle if necessary. I'll try and update the builds from time to time, but just in case I forget every once in a while, be careful if you're watching this video a long time after its original upload date. The upload date of video guides is something you should always look out for. Due to balance changes, older builds can become completely useless. I myself made a video guide back in the beta, and to this date get comments thanking me for the guide, even though some of the traits mentioned in there don't even exist anymore. To be honest, the build wasn't really good back when it actually was up to date, but hey, it was beta and we were all kind of new to the game. I've personally put an annotation at the beginning of that particular build video saying, "Careful, this is out of date, please do not use it anymore." But very few people actually would bother with something like this in their videos, so long story short, pay attention to upload dates, people. Now let's get to what this video is actually supposed to be about. Click on the PvP build button at the top of your screen and a window will open in which everything you can customize in your build is in one place. Well, except for the utility abilities in your hotbar. In the first tab you can see that you have 2 weapon sets, both of which you can use in PvP. In order to switch from the first to the second weapon set, you can click on the arrow button on the left of your hotbar, or with default key bindings, press the tilt button. When you're not in combat, you can pretty much spam it all the time with a tiny cooldown. Whilst in combat though, without any traits or sigils that would influence it, you have a 10-second cooldown. Therefore you have to think about when it is useful to switch and when it could really screw you over, because suddenly you don't have the specific skill you need in that particular situation ready anymore. As you might have noticed, my first 5 skills changed when I switched to a different weapon set. Well, in Guild Wars 2 the weapons you're using determine your abilities, and therefore the playstyle. Stats become a secondary factor in PvE and World vs. World. In PvP though, neither your armor nor your weapons influence your stats directly. Weapons are used for their abilities, and your armor is purely cosmetic. Well, almost. When you create a new character and join Heart of the Mist for the first time, have a look at your armor and you'll see that there are a couple of things missing. With a new thief I'm missing gloves and shoulder armor, and the head I have is from a class-specific question in the character creation. Guardians, for example, would have been able to choose between 2 shoulder and 1 head armor piece. But these 3 missing pieces are not important at all. What has at least a tiny amount of significance are the other 3 pieces, chest, leg and foot armor. Because only if you have something equipped in these 3 slots, you will get the full armor value of your character. So when I remove the head item, nothing happens. But if I remove a chest item, I lose armor. In order to get the weapon you need, you can just go to the weaponsmith. They only cost a couple of copper and it doesn't matter that they're pretty shitty, because the weapon you have equipped in PvP only influences the kind of weapon you have, and therefore your first 5 abilities. If you're equipping 2 one-handed weapons, your main hand will determine the first 3 abilities and your offhand the other 2. Except for thieves, where the 3rd skill is a combination out of both weapons. You have also different skills when you, for example, put a dagger in the main hand, or if you put it in the offhand. If you have a 2-handed weapon, all 5 skills will be determined by that one weapon. Underneath your weapons, you have 2 sigils for every weapon set you can choose. Sigils can have varying effects. which can be straight up stat increases, effects that can trigger when you have a critical strike, something you get after you swap your weapon set, and so on. The sigils only come into effect when you are on the weapon set you put them on. When you click on one of the sigils, you get a list of all sigils you can equip. Since you have quite a few options to choose from, you have a search function. You can look for a specific name of a sigil, a specific stat that you want to have increased, or just effects you're looking for. So if you enter power in there, you'll get a list of all sigils that give you power, which in this case is only one. Or you could also look for on crit, and you'll find all the sigils that have a chance to do something on a critical hit. The one restriction you have with sigils is that you can't have the same sigil twice in a single weapon set. If you're new to PvP and scroll down to the bottom of the list, you will see that a couple of sigils are locked. That's also the case with a few runes and amulets. You can unlock them for a bit of gold, which shouldn't take that long to get, but even if you don't have them, none of them are necessary to make a build work, and only in some cases they are needed to optimize one. Underneath your weapons and sigils you have runes and amulets. Runes give you 6 different bonuses, which can vary from a simple stat increase to all kinds of special bonuses, like a 10% damage increase while your health is above 90% in the case of the Scholar runes. So in most cases you want to look at all the runes that give the attributes you need, and then decide which of these special effects and bonuses is most effective with your build and of course your playstyle. Your amulet right next to the rune is the item that determines the main part of your stats. If we compare runes and amulets, you can see that my runes give me an extra 175 power, but my amulet gives me 922. There aren't as many options with amulets since there are no special effects on there, but just simply attributes. So the options of different amulets made up of a combination of 7 stats that make sense together is limited in and of itself. For any specific build, you might only have 1 or 2 different amulets that actually make any sense. On the second window we have the traits, which could be compared to what other games might call talents. When you join the Heart of the Mist for the first time with a character, you will have a default trait build, which in most cases is pretty nonsensical or just not optimal. So you should put together a proper one before you play any games with the character, which is pretty much why we're here. Every class has 5 trait lines in which you can distribute a total of 14 points. Each of these trait lines has 3 slots for minor traits which are fixed, and 3 major trait slots in which you can choose from a pool of traits. The pool consists of 13 unique traits for each of the 5 trait lines. You can divide the trait lines into 3 different tiers. The first is Adept, the second is Master, and the last one Grandmaster. If you click on any of the Adept runes, you'll see that you have 6 Adept traits to choose from. In the next tier you'll have a choice between all the Adept traits, except for the one you've already used in the first major trait slot, as well as 4 Master traits. In the last tier you'll have a choice between everything you could choose from previously, again except for the traits you've already chosen, plus 3 Grandmaster traits. One of the Grandmaster traits in every trait line, so 5 in total, will be locked at first, but same as it is with runes and sigils, etc., there are very few builds which actually need any of them. If you want any of the locked Grandmaster traits, you have 2 options. You can go and do a specific challenge in PvE, or go to the traits vendor and buy them for 3 gold and 20 skill points. Gold can be acquired through PvP matches, or a variety of other things in PvE and World vs. World. Skill points can be among your rewards from PvP matches, or you can get them from PvE as well. In the majority of cases, a Master trait will be better than an Adept trait, and a Grandmaster trait better than a Master. But since a trait has to be useful for your build, there are lots of builds in which you'll want to use 2 Adepts and 1 Grandmaster, or almost any other possible combination really. If for example you play a Thief build that requires almost no stealth, a trait that gives you a pretty big damage boost when attacking out of stealth becomes completely useless, and you might rather go with a Master trait which is objectively worse, but actually improves something you need in your build. Aside from traits themselves, you also get 2 different attributes from every trait line, depending on how many points you've put in them. So if you hover over the number in front of the trait line, you'll see what and how much of a bonus the current points you have invested in the trait line will give you. With 6 points in Deadly Art, for example, I get 300 power and 30% longer duration for the conditions I put on my enemies. In this build the power is nice, but I don't really need any condition duration. However, the attributes on Deadly Arts aren't the deciding factor here, because I'm going for specific traits. Last but definitely not least, we come to the utility skills. Utility skills are the 5 skills to the right of your health bar, or well, health circle. The first one on the left is your heal skill. If you click on the little yellow arrow, you will get all the heal skills you can choose from. You have 4 heal skills, of which 1 will be locked. You can unlock it with 25 skill points, which is easy to do, but again, not really necessary. I just really want to get this straight, because time and time again there are people who get pissed off because they don't have everything to choose from and say it goes against the idea of equal playing field. Almost all the things you have to unlock in some way are at this moment not necessary for any build to work, and only rarely can improve a build. With the heal skills you have to unlock, you will have difficulty finding any build that actually uses them. So there is a bit of progression, but with all the options you have from the beginning, you will still be on an equal playing field with everybody else. The 3 buttons next to the heal buttons are for normal utility skills, which can have a variety of different uses and effects. In these 3 slots you can choose out of a pool of 20 different skills. What you have to look out for, aside from what the skill actually does, is the category of them. If you hover over the skill, you can see the category on the upper left side of the little window. In the case of my thief, I have deception skills, venom skills, traps, and so on. In your traits you might come across one that is specific to a utility category. One, for example, would be Signets of Power, which gives you might every time you use a signet. And the skill on the far right is your elite skill. These are skills that are pretty strong in certain situations, but also have a fairly long cooldown in most cases. So it is especially important to pick a good moment to use them. All of these utility skills can be used to get the most out of your build. Or maybe you need a specific skill for your particular role in a specific match. And sometimes it's just the combination of skills that complement your playstyle the best. With all of these options to customize your build, it might look a bit overwhelming to actually put one together yourself and get the most out of any particular build. It can be hard to look at it from all angles and especially get the most out of certain combination of options that benefit from each other. But thankfully there are lots of people who are pretty good at coming up with these new ideas and optimizing them. And some of these people are kind enough to share those builds. So as I mentioned, I'm going to take a couple of builds which are currently played by the best teams in Guild Wars 2 and put them into the video description. This way you can be sure to have a solid foundation to start with. But again, I urge you to take the time and have a good look at the build in order to understand what you're actually playing with and know what kind of mechanics you have at your disposal. That's all for today, and in the next video the topic is the essential game type in Guild Wars 2. 5v5 Conquest. If you have any questions or suggestions for topics of future videos, please leave them in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.